dementia residents need to understand what they are experiencing. They need to know that they have memory loss in order to accept where they are living. Otherwise, they can think, well, why am I in this place? Is it a jail? It's like Fort Knox. Is it a psychiatric institution? Am I in a hospital? It's really confusing because they know they're locked in. They can't get out. But why? I haven't done anything. So that's why it needs to be explained to the person why they are in a dementia facility, because of memory loss. Lovingly, empathetically, and repeatedly, no doubt. If the dementia resident understands this and it's explained to them by a supportive relative, then they will accept it. If they know that it's a hazard living at home, leaving the water on, pot on the stove, going out and getting lost, all of these things are risks. And if it's explained to them that this has been the situation with them, then slowly, they'll start to assimilate it, especially if they love you and know you and trust you. Of course, they'll know that you're not telling them, they'll know that you're telling them the truth. There's no reason for you not to. So on the basis of that trust and you explaining it to them in an empathetic, loving way, that will enable them to cognitively and quietly absorb the information. I mean, it can be difficult, of course, especially for younger dementia residents, but still, if they know they have your support and love and guidance, then they're much more likely to accept it. And it's important for them to accept it, because if they're stressed and unsettled and reactive and resistant to living in a dementia unit, it just makes it so much more difficult for them, relatives, friends, family, staff, dementia residents, other dementia residents, and the whole unit, because especially if anxiety and anger comes into the equation, that is something else to deal with. So that's why it's important from the start to sit down with the person and explain to them what's happening in the best way that you can. One example of this where it was done well was at one facility where I was working. There was a younger dementia resident. He was a male in his early 70s with a very supportive wife. And when he first came in, he was stressed and depressed, and she was also stressed, very stressed about him coming into the unit. And she wasn't dealing with it well at all, but she did say to me that she wanted to do everything she could to support him. But, she was finding it really stressful herself, the whole process. So she'd never worked in hospitals or been in hospitals, let alone dementia units. So the whole thing was really foreign to her, but she was open to learning, and she was definitely there to support, her partner, husband. So initially she couldn't take being able to tell him that he was in a dementia unit. It was just too difficult emotionally for both of them. So she actually said to him that he was there to adjust his medication because he wasn't sleeping at night, and he knew that, so he accepted that. But then after a week, of course, he was wondering why he was staying in for such a long time. And it came to the point where she actually needed to explain to him. It's good to explain at least at the end of the first week so that it doesn't get dragged out. So she did explain to him about his memory problem, and he could remember some of the instances. He'd got lost, picked up at the police station. He actually did remember that, because big events you're much more likely to remember, especially something, as impacting as being picked up by the police. And he'd left a pot on the stove, and it had nearly gone up in flames. So he remembered that as well. So when she tied that into the fact that it wasn't safe for him to live at home, it was becoming too difficult and unmanageable, he started to accept it, that indeed he needed to be at such a place because for his safety and others' safety, difficult as it was. And he was depressed, but at least he accepted it. And from that point on, after acceptance, he started building back He built back his confidence, he built back his clarity, his communication improved, and he did become integrated in the unit and a voice for the residents, and did really well as a result. But all the steps were in place for him to understand that he had a memory loss problem. That's why he was in the dementia unit, and he was supported by his wife, friends and family. So with that, he was able to move forward. So that's why it is important for dementia residents to understand that they have a memory problem, so they can orientate to it and accept that they live in a dementia unit because of that. So all this information and these experiences of the dementia residents is in both these books I've written, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit, both on Amazon and in the description below on my website. So please subscribe to this channel. Thank you for your views and interest and comments. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.